Welcome, lords and ladies, kings and queens, my noble court, to the cosmic archive, a living legendarium of a million worlds. I am Lore Master Leonis, your humble scribe and archivist, and today we're going to be covering something that I've honestly been watching over the last few days and been wanting to talk about. Skyebrows, funnily enough, made a whole 4 minute and 20 second video about the situation. So I'm going to talk about the context of this situation and what's been going on. Probably going to talk a little more than usual before we get into the reacts. So I will go ahead and put some timestamps up on the screen so that if you just want to see like the reaction and you don't want to see all the context around it, you can skip to that. I say a lot of things for the sake of posterity. So I'm going to start with explaining what I mean when I say that. I think most people understand, but the premise is that at some point in the future, be it decades or centuries or even millennia, more likely it's going to be centuries. People are not going to have context to everything that happened in this day and age. And so when I say that I'm going to explain something for posterity, for example, when I explained the Pied Piper story in the Steal Your Man video, I said, for the sake of posterity, let me briefly tell you the story. It's more so that people in the future can understand that when I am referring to something, in that case the Pied Piper, this is where that comes from, this is what it was about, and this is why the Pied Piper is used in the way that it is used. So I'm going to explain a few things for posterity here, just for the sake of future generations who may not have the context. Legos are basically what you're seeing on screen here, these bricks all around. I'm gonna kind of briefly go over and I'll type some stuff in and you can kind of see what Legos are like. But Legos tend to have this sort of shape to them. It's a brick with these little nubs on the top. That's the vast majority of Legos. So you might get Legos like this one where it's a lot of different shapes of Legos. But even if you look like this here, like they all have these little nubs on them. There's very few that are different. This is sort of what Lego is. At the end of the day, it's a toy. It is made up of multiple small or large bricks that you use to build together to make more. You build locations, vehicles, etc. Sometimes animals. Like you might get like a Lego dinosaur or something. But it's plastic building blocks. That's more or less what it is. There are certain sets amongst Legos that are worth more because they're relatively rare. Lego, I want to say in the late 20-aughts, that's somewhere between 2006 and 2010, they changed their design philosophy. And the way they created bricks is different. So in the past, they made a lot of bespoke and custom bricks for specific things. Now they have like brick sets and they try to make everything work within the brick sets that they have. So instead of making like a bespoke set of bricks for a Star Wars Star Destroyer, they would instead design the Star Wars Star Destroyer to only use bricks within a specific set of bricks that have been made from X year to Y year. And so the design philosophy is very different. I mean, obviously from a business standpoint, that makes a lot of sense. Why are Legos important? Also, I have to, for posterity, briefly explain what Star Wars is. It's what we call a space opera. It is probably one of the most important science fiction series in our modern day. It is about a young man he basically goes through the whole hero's journey. He joins a rebellion group against a galactic scale empire. He helps destroy a galactic empire super weapon that destroys planets, and he does this by learning how to harness something called the Force. He uses the Force to sort of guide his projectiles into a very small target near the end of the movie. The Force is something that is utilized by two groups, one called the Jedi, one called the Sith. The Jedi are largely considered the good guys. They operate on the, quote, light side of the Force, where the Sith are often depicted as the bad guys and operate on the, quote, dark side of the Force. There's a lot of philosophy that's been born out of this, and there's some arguments that the dark side isn't so much evil as it is just like darker emotional impulses, which are necessary but not always good and should be constrained. I'm not going to go super deep into that. That's not really the point. The point is Star Wars has a very big IP, a very big intellectual property. So the context now, I'm going to go into the context for this video. I'm trying to make this happen quickly because I don't want to sit here and yap for like 2.5 hours. There are hours of footage about everything I'm about to mention. The short version of the story is you have a family called the Mancells. Granddaddy Mancell wants to sell off a Star Wars collection he's been collecting for a very long time that is worth a lot of money. The initial statement was $200,000. There's some contention as to whether or not that is the actual number, but it's worth a lot of money. They went to a company called Bricks and Minifigs, which is kind of like GameStop for Lego, I suppose. I don't really want to explain what GameStop is in this video. I do want to keep this constrained. For people who understand the context, you're going to know. Otherwise, Bricks and Minifigs is a place where people would go to it's like for Lego collectors and Lego enthusiasts. So if you enjoy these Lego things and the amazing things they've made that you can build with them, Bricks and Minifigs is a place that does a lot of resale. Resale being when it's something that was used, someone sold it to the store then sells it to other people. In this particular case, because it was a big and expensive collection, the store was called a consignment, which means that the Mancells handed over possession of the Legos to Bricks and Minifigs. Bricks and Minifigs then had a duty to put the Legos out, sell the Legos, and anytime one of the Mancells Lego sets sold, they then pay the Mancells, and they take a cut of that for doing the legwork of getting the Legos out there and selling them on their storefront. And that's all fine and dandy, except that after about a year of that, and I'm guessing based on what people are saying, based on what some of the lawyers and whatnot are saying, half or less of the collection remained physically in the store. Something happened. The store switched ownership to these new folks. Leo from the future here. I need to take a moment to explain what franchising is because I didn't do that. So there are times when a big company with a big name, in this case we're talking Bricks and Minifigs, they will sell the right for someone to use their name, branding, etc. and own their own like street front store property. So that property is the franchise. I'll say it's the franchisees, the person who's buying the right to use the big company's name and branding. The building and the business they're running are theirs, and they pay a cut of that to the corporation that runs it for the rights to continue using the branding and the name of that company. But the individual store itself is owned by a person, not by the company. And what happened in this case is there was one owner that owned the store. The corporation and the owner decided to split. The owner went to Europe, and the corporation changed the store, the individual store, into the hands of a different franchisor or franchisee. I'm not sure which is which. A new owner for that specific building. And the new folks basically decided those Legos are ours now, and we have no obligation to pay money out to the Mancells for any of the previously sold or soon to be sold units. So this opened a whole bag of worms. There's a YouTuber named Reckless Ben that's been covering this situation. He got involved because the Mancells asked him if he would... They're not paying him or anything, just he's one of these YouTubers who goes out and messes around and does things and tries to help people. And he does it through arguably unscrupulous ways, but when the powers that be are going to act unscrupulously, what are you to do? But Reckless Ben basically, I would describe it as he went in the store and he ended up slowly peeling back layer after layer after layer of corruption. But to sort of fast forward, if you want to see all that information, I would refer you to the Reckless Ben videos and some of the other videos that have been made around it. Some of the reactions, some of the shorter videos, the responses from Bricks and Minifigs corporate, etc. At the end of the day, I think the important thing is basically these guys did not want to give up the Legos. They did not want to give up the money. Reckless Ben, in short order, basically, he came up with a bunch of ideas. He initially combated this, and the police said, this is a civil issue. We can't help you. And in other words, this wasn't criminal, so the police can't really do anything about it. You have to go into a court and seek civil compensation. The old grandpa, by the way, is slowly dying, and we don't know how long he has left. So they're trying to reclaim these Legos and the money regarding it as quickly as possible to ensure that the grandpa can give the inheritance to his grandchildren before he dies. Reckless Ben goes through a number of things, tries to catch them on some criminal charges. That doesn't really work. Tries to get them to sue him. That doesn't really work. Eventually, what he ends up doing is he buys a bunch of the Lego sets from the Mancells, tries to claim them, which then allows him to have a case against Bricks and Minifigs directly. So it's no longer he's trying to help the Mancells with their case. He now has a case. Bricks and Minifigs now owes him $10,000 or the equivalent in Legos that he has purchased from Mancell. So now he goes after the company and he wins the lawsuit. And the reaction for the company is that they just shut the company down. They shut down the store so that the company doesn't have to pay them. But since he does have an interest in those Legos, he goes after the individuals who own the company directly, and that resulted in a huge chunk of problems for Reckless Ben. The short version is they live in this small town called American Fork in Utah. The Mancells and this whole situation with the Legos happened in Oregon, in a small town in Oregon, I think they said it was a little south of Salem. So now he has to go to Utah, so to an entirely different state, to serve paperwork and whatnot. And there's the guy he's trying to serve paperwork to won't take the paperwork. He's giving orders to the cops and the cops are following them instead of doing the job the cops are supposed to do. The cops are 100% on the Bricks and Minifigs corporate side. Well, I say corporate, I just mean the people, the business people. They're on the business's side. They're taking like the CEO's word for legal jargon, which a cop is not supposed to do that. A cop is not the arbiter of legal jargon. A cop's supposed to say, okay, was a crime committed here, yes or no? If no, then we're leaving. If yes, then we'll arrest somebody at worst. Sometimes they'll let them off with like a warning if it's not a very serious crime. But these guys are basically just doing the bidding of the two owners, which was Brett Best. I want to say it's Brett or Bailey Best, and something Johnson. I want to say it's Josh or Jacob Johnson. Reckless Ben gets arrested multiple times. His friends get arrested. They try to do a GoFundMe. The GoFundMe's got up to over $300,000. So now the case is going to be that he wants to give the money from the GoFundMe to the Mancells so that a chunk of it, so that they could do their business, and then he'll take the rest of it and use it to deal with Bricks and Minifigs in court. Now, the reason this song is called The Brick of Mormon is because I'm gonna say Josh. I might be wrong, but I think it was Josh. Josh, Brett, and the Bricks and Minifigs corporate CEO are all members of the Mormon Church. They all went to the same Mormon schools, as did all the cops, or a lot of the cops in American Fork. And American Fork is a Mormon town largely controlled by its Mormon church. And so there's this sense that there's a Mormon mafia that basically runs everything, and you came to the Mormon mafia town to demand legal restitution from one of their guys, and now the whole town is going to do everything in its power to mess with you because that's one of their guys and they don't want you to mess with them. That's not entirely the case. It's not fair, I think, to put what these bad actors did on everyone in that church. That being said, the church should be making an effort not to associate with bad actors like this. I don't think they will, because I do think the brass of the church is probably part of the same cabal of people as these businessmen. People do this all the time. It's not just the Mormon church. It's any group of people that have enough in common can get together and sort of collude to ensure that in a certain area they're always going to be the ones in power. And that's what the Mormon church has done in American Fork and many other places in Utah. Utah's a big Mormon area in the U.S. So with all of that out of the way, I don't know if I did a really good explanation for that or not. With all that out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and react to this. We're going to do our minimal reaction and our maximal reaction. So these three are the three I just... This is Brett, or whatever his name is. The first one was Josh. One in the middle, I think, is Reckless. That's the CEO. Got a claim forming a backline and a story changing by the halftime. I say I didn't do like window. If it ain't true, then I walk through every interview, got been to every memory, got an edit menu, R2D2 onto other swear. So this won't be on pause anymore. Sean Rowe, thank you for subscribing. I have never had that happen in the middle of a video before, but here we are. You're the first one. So thank you for the subscription, Sean Rowe. This video, they're talking a lot about the backdrop I was talking about with all the legal paperwork. Did I mention that the Lego collection in question was a Star Wars Lego collection? It is a Star Wars Lego collection, which is why I mentioned that Star Wars is a big deal and why I talked about Star Wars earlier. I'm sorry if I did not do that.
I ain't greedy, I'm protective. From a certain point perspective, every fact is more subjective. When the shelf looks so collectible, more and more men call me shady, call me litigation crazy.
He was telling them to sue him.
Call me maybe, call me daily, just don't call the feds Ben, maybe. Got a bad feeling, that's tradition. Got a mission and a
This is the manager of the store.
Got a lawyer, so that's permission. No castle run, I simply squander. I don't hide, the truth just wanders. I don't lie, I merely launder your questions, non-responder. Jedi mind trick, mind effect, certain facts have gone.
Jedi mind trick refers to something the Jedi can do in Star Wars.
Certain boxes gone, fishing certain cameras, extra snitching. Obi-Wan, my explanation, mastery, interpretation. Every claim of variation on the theme of compensation. They say
I can see how.
I say why so black and white, though life's a spectrum. Let the force finders keepers, that's my life code. A faithful millennium falconist, brick acquisition specialist, plastic preservation archivist, part-time
Oh
amateur.
my god. I can see how he got this out. This isn't like super extensive.
Allocation, searching for divine confirmation, for collected grade valuation. The force awoke inside my heart, near the vintage Lego part. Some call that the darkest star, I call that a brand new start. I say, look, let's be objective. The collection looked neglected. I was simply redirected by a higher force directive.
Oh man.
Every headline turns to backfire. Every fact check fuels the tire fire. Every witness suddenly
Who is this guy? I feel like I recognize him, but that's not Reckless Ben, is it? I think that's Reckless Ben, but it might not be.
Swearing on my Mormon mother, blaming one thing then another. Every brother backs a brother till someone calls an undercover. I would never stoop to theft. I merely shifted assets left. You say my morals are bereft. Let's leave the matter unaddressed. Like Joseph Smith, you know. Call the popo on this shaggy bro. Reckless Ben, do not pass go. Send you straight to Mexico. The force is strong with my collection. The source is wrong on inspection. Foreign forces, divine protection. Stacking bricks of misdirection. Walking a thin line on a slack line. My tiny planet, stars shine. Castle waiting in the skyline. Fly my falcon through the divine. If the kingdom's everlasting, ooh, and celestial worlds are fasting, ooh, why you still busy asking where I keep those boxes basking? Never let go, never let go. That's the motto, that's the tempo. If the force says no, then maybe. If it says stop, then move it slowly. R2D2 unto others, swearing on my Mormon mother. There's no
The guy in the pink suit is definitely Reckless Ben.
undercover.
In loving memory of Joseph Smith. I don't actually know who Joseph Smith is. That might be the guy he keeps coming back to. Let me attempt to find out. Oh, Joseph Smith is the founder of Mormons and the Latter-day Saints. Okay. So I take it that's why he keeps showing up in the video. So I kept saying I don't know who this is. Well, now I do. I don't know if that was meant. I cannot see Skyebrows doing that as a mockery, which leads me to believe Skyebrows probably thinks that Joseph Smith was not a bad man and tried to do good by his people, but it's sad that the church he founded has fallen so far as to allow for this kind of action. That would be my kindest take on that ending scroll there. So I'm gonna go ahead and do my maximal react now. We're probably gonna spend a lot of time dissecting the lyrics. It doesn't look like the visuals are that expansive. Does he? No. So he does have a link here to the original video where he explained, like, this is Reckless Ben explaining like what's going on and how he got involved, etc., etc. Okay, so I'm probably going to create more context as I talk about things as they talk about things. So let's go into it. So this is, I want to say his name is Joseph Johnson or Jacob Johnson. I don't recall off the top of my head. Future me will put this on here, but this guy, at the time that Reckless Ben got involved in the situation, this guy was the owner of the store. He is the owner that took over after the previous owner, who had made the consignment agreement with the Mancells, was let go by corporate. He is no longer the owner of that store. He is no longer a franchisee under Bricks and Minifigs. Bricks and Minifigs basically fired him in an attempt to avoid further bad press by being associated with him, which didn't help because the CEO was kind of a bastard live on air. I'm guessing this is Joseph Smith, founder of the Mormon Church. This is Brett Best. He was the partner and co-owner of the Bricks and Minifigs store, along with the other guy, Mr. Johnson. I'm walking a thin line on a slack line. This is the CEO of Bricks and Minifigs corporate. So this is the guy who's come out on streams and stuff trying to explain the Bricks and Minifigs side of the story, though he has been cold, callous, and deflective when it comes to actually paying the Mancells what they owe. What does he say? I'm walking a thin line on a slack line. I'm reading warning signs as a flat line. Reading warning signs as a flat line. Got a claim form and a back line and a story. Got a claim form and a back line and a story changing by the halftime. I'm not sure what all that wording spits out to. The story changing by the halftime makes sense to me because they have Bricks and Minifigs specifically, and this is the CEO of Bricks and Minifigs we're seeing here, has in fact changed their story multiple times. You know, at first, when they were talking to Josh, I want to say it's Josh was the store owner, he was saying, we don't even have the Legos. Then later he told them, yeah, we actually do have the Legos. They've officially said that they did set aside everything that they thought belonged to Mancell and that they're still sitting there. Once the controversy happened, they stopped trying to sell those Star Wars sets, I imagine. And then they were saying, no, we actually don't have the Legos. And then they were saying, oh, well, we just have to make sure all our ducks are in a row so that all the paperwork's correct. So when we exit these out of the store inventory, that, you know, nothing's messed up and this doesn't become a problem in the future, which sounds reasonable on the surface, but they were using it as an excuse to not give the Legos back. Story changing by the halftime. I say I didn't do like Windu. If it ain't true, then I'll warp through. I say I didn't do like Windu. If it ain't true, I'll warp through. I'll be honest, this sucks because I'm a Star Wars fan, but I don't know what this is in reference to. I would assume that if they're going to talk about Windu, they're talking about what he's doing in the movies, because most people would know Windu from the movies. So the biggest thing that I could think of that Mace Windu did was attempt to end Darth Sidious and get thrown out the window for it. Every interview got a bend to, every memory got an edit menu. Every video got a pen too. Every memory got an edit menu. Yeah, you know, I'm just gonna alter what I'm remembering right now. Oh, actually, I remember that thing that you mentioned. R2D2 unto others, swearing on my Mormon mother. R2D2 unto others, swearing on my Mormon mother. I don't think technically that Josh or anyone involved ever swore on their mom, but Josh does have a moment where he said, I swear to God and everything, I'm not going to screw you. I don't do that. I'm not like that. And then proceeded to screw them. But I can kind of see where this is coming from. Like I remember Reckless Ben actually went to the Mormon church to talk with some of the other Mormons and say, like, you know, I might not believe as you do, but this man swore on your God. And if he swore on your God and then also didn't follow through, that sounds like it's really bad for him philosophically and religiously. And maybe someone from the church could talk to him about that. There's no bigger layer lover, but I keep her undercover. There's no bigger Leia lover, but I keep her undercover. So undercover is just that he's keeping them in the store and he's not letting anyone see them. Leia is, as anyone watching this right now is probably going to already know, Leia is a major character in the Star Wars franchise. Oh, I've not done my due diligence here. These after the CEO, these guys are members of the American Fork Police Department, which is what AFPD stands for here, American Fork Police Department. Each one of these images you're seeing here is based off of a specific police officer that interacted with Reckless Ben in his videos. This one, I think actually this one looks like one of the guys from Oregon not one of the guys from American Fork. So this looks like the guy who came and whispered. There was a point where they caught the company, quote unquote, stealing from a lottery. And he was looking, one of the cops was looking at the book and going, oh, this is in Oregon, not in Utah. Well, the cops was like, oh, this is a criminal action, actually. We do need to investigate this. And this bald cop with a beard came up and sunglasses came up and whispered in his ear and said, like, something we don't know. And then all of a sudden, the cops are completely against helping Reckless Ben. My presumption is that he basically said, like, look, if this guy ran a lottery knowing full well he didn't have access to the prize, that's fraudulent. So we're not gonna, if we investigate the store, we're also going to have to investigate him. We're not going to do all that right now. Now, this guy, I'm pretty sure, was part of the American Fork Police Department. He came by a couple of times. This lady, it says Thompson. I don't know if that was actually her name. We only see her in one interaction, and she's just immediately hostile to Ben, like with zero question whatsoever. Just immediately hostile, immediately doesn't want him around. No willingness to even hear the other side of the story at all.
I ain't greedy, I'm protective from a certain...
I ain't greedy and protective from a certain point perspective. That is a reference to a line in Star Wars where after Luke, the main character, discovers that his father, who Ben Kenobi told him died, is actually Darth Vader, the main antagonist of the series. Luke then goes to Obi-Wan and says, you lied to me, you told me my father died. And Obi-Wan replies by saying, the day your father turned to the dark side is the day that Anakin Skywalker, the boy I knew, died, and Darth Vader was born. So what I told you was true from a certain point of view.
Point perspective, every fact is more subjective when the shelf looks so collectible.
Every fact is more subjective when the shelf looks so collectible. This is another American Fork Police Department guy. I don't recall him specifically being any one thing or another. He kind of looks like the guy who maybe made the first arrest. This guy, I think, was there for the car search. No, he's carrying the AR-15. He's part of the SWAT crew that swatted their house later. So that's I'm trying not to go super deep into all this different details, but there, at least in Utah, the basic order of events was he shows up in Utah, he goes to the Oregon court told him we can't process a case unless you make a good faith attempt to talk to the people you're trying to make a case against and settle this outside of the court. So he goes to talk to the two owners. One owner stonewalls him. The other owner calls the cops on him immediately. The cops give him an illegal pullover and say that he ran a stop sign, which if you look at the dash cam footage, he clearly did not. Once he makes the attempt to contact Josh, he then gets permission to go forward with the court case. So now he has to serve Josh with papers. So then he goes the next day to serve Josh with papers, and he's basically just sitting there. Josh won't come out of his house. Josh won't come receive the papers. He sent a process server over to give him the papers. Josh refuses to come out, refuses to sign the papers, refuses to take the papers, etc. And so the police are called on him 3 times. The first 2 times, the police look at everything and go, I mean, yeah, you're trespassed from the area, but you're not going on his property, so there's no issue. And, if you've got to serve him court papers, you got to serve him court papers. It is what it is. And then the 3rd time, they go and talk to Josh first, and Josh basically tells them, this is fake, that there isn't a real court case, nothing's going on, no one's taking me to court or nothing, and therefore he's here with no reason, he's stalking me, I want him arrested. And the cops capitulate to that. Just so we are clear, there is a significant period of time between that demand being made and the cops going through a lot of different things before they actually do it. But it is clear the entire time that the cops are more or less on the side of Josh and would prefer to arrest this kid rather than attempt to hear his side of the story. But ultimately, after they go through and they look at stuff and they call it screening for charges. They basically run down the entire book to see if there's anything potentially that a person has done that they can say, oh, well, technically you committed a crime and now we have to arrest you. Right after that, they have to let him go because they can't get him on anything serious. So they have to let him go. He goes back home, and the next day, or maybe it was later that same day, his house gets swatted by a SWAT team. So this is a member of the SWAT team.
Call me litigation crazy.
Again, the litigation crazy is before all of this went down and Josh was trying so hard not to go to court with Ben. He kept telling Ben and Brian Mansell, the guy who's been handling the Mansell's side of the Lego collection debacle. He basically just kept telling him, sue me. You'll spend more time and money in court than the collection's worth. So go ahead, sue me. And then once Ben was like, all right, cool, I'll sue you, they suddenly started backpedaling.
Call me daily, just don't call the feds, Ben, maybe.
Call Call Me Maybe is a reference to an old song, like an old clubbing song with this girl who is basically a girl who saw a guy from across the room and decided he looked really hot. And so she just kind of gives him her number and says, call me maybe. He's saying, call me all this stuff, just don't call the feds. Because at this point, the next move is to move this whole Bricks and Minifigs thing up from a local Utah court to a federal court. And if it goes to a federal court, the way it's looking is way more likely to be ruled in Ben's favor.
Got a bad feeling, that's tradition. Got a mission and a superstition. Got a witness with a contradiction.
A witness with a contradiction. I don't know. That might be her. Got a bad feeling. That's tradition. I'm guessing these are things she said to him at some point. Got a lawyer, so that's permission. But I'm not 100% sure this whole situation. She is the store manager, by the way. So if we go here, when this whole thing started in Oregon, the specific Bricks and Minifigs store that the consignment deal happened at, she was the manager that was present when Reckless Ben first entered the scene.
That's tradition. Got a mission and a superstition. Got a witness with a contradiction. Got a lawyer, so that's permission.
I don't know about the witness with a contradiction. I don't remember there being like a witness with a contradiction. I'm not sure where all of that is coming from. Got a lawyer, so that's permission. Also not sure where that's coming from. I think the concept is that the company knows it's got a lawyer, so I can do whatever I want because I can slam you in court.
Castle Run, I simply squander.
Kessel Run is a reference to a specific Star Wars set called the Kessel Run set.
I don't hide, the truth just wanders.
I don't hide, the truth just wanders. In other words, the primary defense that Bricks and Minifigs has come up with this entire time is basically, just trust me, bro. Just trust me, bro. I'm telling the truth, bro. I'm not lying. I'm not hiding. And so the joke is, I've not hidden or stayed away from the truth. The truth just kind of changes over time. It's not always the same, which is ridiculous. The truth is always the same.
I don't lie, I merely launder your questions, non-responder.
I don't lie, I merely launder your questions, non-responder. Well, I can see non-responder connecting to this guy, because when Reckless Ben went to talk to him, he just clamped his mouth shut and did not talk at all. It was really creepy, actually.
Jedi mind trick, minor fit, and certain facts have gone missing.
Jedi mind trick, again, like in the Star Wars movies, there's an ability Jedi have where they can sort of wave their hand at someone and use the Force to suggest to them within their own mind that they should say or not say something. So that's what they're referring to here. They're trying to Jedi mind trick the public into making it look like Reckless Ben is like some YouTuber attacking a company with no good reason, when in reality, this company has brought this hell upon themselves.
Certain boxes gone fishing, certain cameras extra snitching, no be.
So the cameras, there's cameras in the store which were requested evidence and granted evidence, I believe in Oregon. These cameras show that at the time that the business takeover was happening, the new owners were well aware of what was in the store and were well aware of the inventory and that some of it belonged to Mansell, and at least to some degree, which ones were Mansell's. And so because the video proves that they understood that, they can't sit here and claim that we didn't know which sets were yours. Sorry, bro. That's not an option for them.
You want my explanation, mastery, interpretation, every claim of very.
Obi-Wan, my explanation. Obi-Wan's a character from Star Wars as well. He's a Jedi Master. Every claim of variation.
Obi-Wan, my explanation, mastery, interpretation, every.
Master reinterpretation. Yeah, Jedi Masters are often just called Master and their last name. So I think that is a nod to that, but at the same time, they're also saying that he's mastered the art of reinterpreting everything so that it looks as good as possible for him when very clearly the shit is bad. Every claim of variation, yeah, because again, he's just changing his story all the time.
Claim of variation on the theme of compensation. They say, Josh, return the Lego.
Okay, this guy, this is Reckless Ben right here. In the pink suit. Reckless Ben is not in the pink suit all the time, but he was in the pink suit when he did the raffle, and he's been in the pink suit in several videos since his second part. Right now, this saga still has a part 3 that Ben has on his Patreon, but has not been released to YouTube yet. So we're kind of just waiting for part 3 to see where that goes.
I say, why so black and white, though life's a spectrum, let the force flow.
Okay, so he's saying give back the Legos, and he's depicting Josh here and saying, why so black and white, life's a spectrum, let the force flow. Let the force flow is a reference to Star Wars. Like there's a thing like let the force flow through you, and so the idea is the power of the universe flows through you and you can accomplish great things. He's saying it's not black and white, it's a spectrum. He's not entirely wrong, But what he did is very black, and what Reckless Ben is asking for is very white. So in that regard, Reckless Ben's not wrong either in saying that it is black and white. You stole something, return it.
Finders keepers, that's my life code. A faithful millennium falconist.
Finders keepers, that's my life code. A faithful millennium falconist. I can see those two going together. Like, obviously, finders keepers must be his life code if he's so cool with holding on to this, despite all the bad publicity, despite the fact that even it was worth $200,000, that's nowhere close to Bricks and Minifigs' net worth. You should have just let it go, bro. You should have just been like, this is clearly getting out of hand. I don't want this to blow up all over the internet. I'm just gonna give you the damn Legos. Leave me in peace. Bricks and Minifigs would be fine. Their reputation would have been probably spared most of the negative hit. But for some reason, they really wanted to dig their heels in on this one. And I don't know why. I don't know what possessed them to do that. A faithful Millennium Falconist makes sense too. The pilot of the Millennium Falcon, Han Solo, is a smuggler. So you could argue that, yes, they're kind of smuggling these Legos from one person to another.
Brick acquisition specialist, plastic preservation archivist,
Fancy names for I took your Legos.
time amateur escapologist. Some folks pray for revelation, I pray for shelf space allocation, sir.
Some folks pray for revelation. I pray for shelf space allocation. When Brian first brought the Legos into the store had to go get more shelves because there were so many units in Brian's dad's collection that they did not have enough shelving space in the store to fit them all.
Searching for divine confirmation, for collected grade valuation. The force awoke inside my heart near the vintage Lego park.
That's just straight funny. The Force awoken. The Force is a big thing in Star Wars, and one of the sequel movies, which in fairness, people don't like the sequel movies so much, but one of the sequel movies is called The Force Awakens. So saying the Force awoke inside my heart near the vintage Lego part is very poignant.
Some call that the darkest star.
Some call that the darkest star. Oh man, I watched it the one time and I'm already forgetting some of the words and how funny it is. Like, this is straight up hilarious. Like, this is Skyebrows just calling them out for their bullshit.
Call that a brand new start. I say, look, let's be objective.
Okay, now this comes from something Josh told the police. So he's like, let's be objective about this. And he basically said, would a process server get in a car with a YouTuber that's been harassing me to come serve me court papers? And the answer to that question is, if said YouTuber does have a legitimate existing case against you and is required by the court to serve you court papers, but has been trespassed from your property because you demanded him be trespassed before he could even serve you the court papers or try to make amends prior to serving you the court papers in the first place, yes, you would have a process server with you to try to come back and serve the papers because you cannot physically go onto his property. Whether or not the person is a YouTuber is irrelevant.
If the collection looked neglected, I was simply redirected by a higher force directed.
The collection looked neglected. Basically just more excuses for why they took the Legos.
Walking a thin line on a slack line. Every headline turns to backfire. Every fact check fuels the tire fire. Every witness suddenly retires. Got more.
So this is all in reference to the fact that every time they've come up with an excuse or they tried to like show their side of the story, tried to put out there that they're not this nasty corporation that Reckless Ben makes them look like, it has backfired. And it has backfired because actions are always louder than words. And while they sit out here and they say all this stuff about, trust me, bro, look, I'm not the bad guy, I'm not doing anything wrong, this guy's just attacking us and there's no good reason for him to do that, the reality is your actions have shown that, as far as you're concerned, as soon as you took over that store, those Legos were yours. You have no responsibility or compulsion to give them back to their original owner or to pay the owner for sets that were sold but were not paid out to him yet. And you're going to try to sweep this whole thing under the rug because you don't want to pay for it. But at this point, how much have you paid just to keep things off your back, just to keep at the end of the day, if the police are going to be at your beck and call like that, I'm betting there's money involved that probably Bricks and Minifigs or the individual members donate to the police retirement fund or something. You know, they find some sneaky way to make sure that they're putting money into the police pocket, so when stuff happens to them, the police do help them.
More spins than a lightsaber. Every
Right. Lightsabers twirl and spin. Like, they're very cool choreographed fights.
month the tale gets stranger. Every statement shape changes later like a legally distinct changeling vapor. Swear
Again, just a reference to the fact that they keep changing their story.
I'm a Mormon mother, blaming one thing then another. Every brother back's a brother to someone calls an undercover.
I don't think they got an undercover, but this might be in reference to the fact that a few days or a week after part 2 dropped, somebody on the internet got into... I'm not 100% sure it happened. The way that... I think the belief is that the footage was leaked. But it's all the body cam footage that previously a lot of the body cam footage was redacted by the American Forks Police Department because, well, it made them look very bad. It made it very clear that the police were not acting as neutral arbiters, which is what they're supposed to do. The police are supposed to be there to determine, did a crime occur? If yes, then take appropriate action. If no, then take appropriate to no action. And at the end of the day, like, that just didn't happen. They got there, they got told by one guy, hey, I don't want this guy here. I don't like him, arrest him. And the cops invented a reason to arrest him by screening through every possible tiny little statute that maybe he could have possibly broken. So it's very clear the cops were in Josh's pocket the entire time.
I would never stoop to theft. I merely shifted assets left you.
Said I would never stoop to theft. That's a reference to the phone call where he said, I swear on God and everything, like, I'm not going to screw you. I'm not that kind of guy.
Say my morals are bereft. Let's leave the matter unaddressed like Joseph Smith. You know. Call the po-po on this shaggy bro.
Like Joseph Smith, you know. Well, now we know that Joseph Smith is the founder of the Mormon Church. See, the thing is, realistically, I doubt these people are really genuinely super Mormon. Like, they're probably not that religious. They're just part of that church because it's the in crowd. It's the club to be part of to have power and authority in the area.
Reckless Ben, do not pass go. Send you straight to Mexico.
Okay, so Reckless Ben, do not pass go, send you straight to Mexico. That is because basically what happened is after everything that happened in Utah, the American Fork Police contacted, to my understanding, I want to preface this. I'm not 100% sure if they contacted the police in Oregon, but Reckless Ben makes it sound like they did. The evidence Reckless Ben gave did not include evidence of them contacting Oregon's police departments. But they did contact the LA Police Department, which is where Reckless Ben actually lives, is in Los Angeles. And the LAPD agreed to basically go get him and take him in for questioning on the other police department's suspicion, unfounded by the way, that this guy was making death threats, etc. The fact is, Reckless Ben addresses this at some point as well, that Bricks and Minifigs, or the people working with the guys in question within Bricks and Minifigs, they've been making threats and whatnot in his name. They've been making claims that he made threats when he did not, etc. So they're basically here telling the LAPD, like, hey, this guy has threatened to burn down our stores, shoot up our employees, etc., etc. He keeps harassing us, and his last known address is in LA. We were hoping that maybe you could get this guy and either like get him back over here so we can mete out justice, or this is actually the police talking to the police. So like we have this kid who these guys keep saying that he's doing these things. So now the LA Police Department is also looking for him. So he fled to Mexico. Important part about that, he actually has a warrant out for his arrest in the state of Utah. And when you flee the country, when you have a warrant for your arrest, that's pretty bad. I'm pretty sure he's still in Mexico because in his last video, he did say something like, you will never find me, American police, because he's in Mexico right now. But he is still going through these court cases with Brett and with Josh, and also his criminal court cases where the court is trying to determine whether or not he's actually a stalker. They're claiming that he stalked the guy because he followed him around, or he went to his place multiple times, which he had to serve papers.
Collection, the source is wrong on inspection. Forward force is divine protection, stacking bricks of misdirection.
Forward force? Is that what he said there? Fork force. Okay, fork force is divine protection. Again, the American Force Police Department.
Protection, stacking bricks of misdirection. Walking a thin line on a slack line, my tiny planet stars shine. Castle waiting in the skyline.
There is a location in Star Wars called Cloud City that kind of looks like a castle. That might be a reference to that. Also, it could just be a reference to the fact that they feel like they're, castle in the sky people who can't be bothered with the tiny things on Earth, and that these people shouldn't even have the right to fight us about this. That they do seem to come off that way in a number of ways. I'm not 100% sure what this situation is that he's referencing, but it sounds like it's trying to see things from the point of view of the company and the owners, where they're sort of like, they consider themselves above, and so they're sitting here like, why are you even asking me these questions? Get out of here, kid. You, from our perspective, you don't even have the right to question us on this. That's what it seems like to me, but I'm not sure what this line is actually trying to say.
Never let go, never let go. That's the motto, that's the tempo.
Never let go, never let go.
The force says no, then maybe. If it's a stop, then move it slowly.
That's a good point out there, by the way. If something says no, they really are playing that game. No just means maybe. And if it says you need to stop, then just move slowly, all right? Just move slowly. You don't have to follow the rules. Just kind of seem like you are a little bit, maybe.
R2D212.
Again, this is Reckless Ben here. This microphone is the one he uses in his videos.
The swearing on my Mormon mother. There's no bigger layer lover, but I keep her undercover.
Again, in loving memory of Joseph Smith being the man who started the Mormon Church. And again, I think that's likely more to be that Sky is showing respect to a man who created something, and remorse. Remorse isn't really the right word. Grief, perhaps, that thing he created has fallen so far from its desire to be holy to a place where people can look at it like this and go, oh, really? So the Mormons are the problem. And as I've said before, they're not. You know, I don't doubt that there is a Mormon cabal involved in this, but that's not every member of the Mormon Church. It probably is parts of the Mormon Church brass, for sure. I would almost guarantee that. But average Joe Schmo going to church on Sunday is not at fault for this stuff. In the words of Leaflet, though, by doing things like this, the people in charge make it very difficult to take action other than to simply be prejudiced against the Mormons. The reason being that if the Mormon Church protects a bad actor like this, then you for your protection, you kind of have to assume that this group is willing, it has shown willingness to protect bad actors. So you don't know who in the group is bad actors and is not bad actors. And for your protection, it's better to assume that they're bad actors until they prove you otherwise, which sucks. Because it means you're going to be treating people of this group with suspicion unless they give you a reason not to. And it's not a way that most anyone wants to operate. But I don't really know what else you can do when that happens, when you have a group that's shown a willingness to protect bad actors. And in fairness, in the Reckless Ben video, he does go and talk to members of the church, like normal Joe members of the church, like the normal everyday outreach people who aren't like in the upper brass. They're just normal, like trying to help people, members of the church. And those people went out to talk to Josh specifically because like, hey, you're putting your soul at risk here. Do you really want to do that? And they did that in good faith and got the cops called on them as well. So it's not all the Mormons. It's just a particular group of Mormons. But yes, I think I've said pretty much everything I wanted to say. This was incredibly good again, Skyebrows. I now understand how you got 3 videos out in the last week. This one is very, there's not a lot of like action sequences and whatnot going on, but I do like this. It's very funny. It's very poignant. It's very on point about what's been going on. I think, I actually do have one more thing to say about this. This whole Reckless Ben situation where he's covered everything from minute 1 to minute now, and he's constantly filming. He's got all the paperwork. He's constantly showing all of the evidence to support. He hides nothing. He shows everything. Even when he did take illegal actions, he was like, yep, that's right, actually. That is illegal, and I did do that. You're correct, and you're right to call me on it. We need people to do this with companies more often. We, the normal everyday Joes of America, need to be doing this to cabals and companies and cartels. And when I say cartels, I do not just mean like the Mexican drug cartels. A cartel is when a group of businesses get together and agrees they're going to operate a certain way to make sure that their circle of businesses comes out on top of everyone else involved in business. These things need to be shattered, broken, destroyed. We should be building a world in which businesses operate in good faith and people operate in good faith. And to do that, you have to create disincentives to operate differently and actual incentives to operate the way you should. And one of the disincentives we should do is that when a company does shit like this, someone is going to break that open. They're going to show the entire world what pieces of shit they are, and this company is going to die with no one willing to buy their crap anymore. That is what should happen every time a business treats people like garbage like this. That is my opinion personally. This is not a political thing. This is just like, there are powerful people with a lot of money. And I'm not saying that people who do the work to build businesses shouldn't be rewarded with more money and by default a larger degree of power. That makes sense. If you build it for yourself, then that's what's going to happen. If you do a good job and you create something that becomes a staple of a community, that's what's going to happen. But you cannot hold them above reproach. You cannot hold them above reproach, ever. These companies, especially major corporations, major corporations, really need to feel stings like this. Not just stings, like, we should be crumbling businesses that will not use good faith practices. As the people, we should be doing that. There should be more of us going out, filming these things, showing everything that's going on, being willing to go through this whole court situation with them, if that's what it effing takes. And we should be crushing and crumbling these people who treat everyone like objects. That's my opinion. That's probably the most opinionated thing I've said on this channel, but I don't like it when businesses are allowed to act this way. It is not okay. One, I'm not saying we need to have a fair world. The world will never be fair. But we do need to have a baseline of how businesses should function so that everyone at least has a fair chance in the business world. And if you can't hack it, you can't hack it. It is what it is. But it shouldn't be because another company stomped you before you had a chance to even try. But yes, overall, the situation is very bad. And it shows a window into how businesses tend to do things. If you want a better legal breakdown and everything, both Legal and Legal Mindset have very good videos on this, as well as a number of other lawyer channels. And I would heavily suggest you watch those, because obviously watching Reckless Ben's video paints a certain picture, and it's good to see what the other side looks like. In this case, there's just no good way to spin what Brick Minifigs has been doing, but you should always see the other side before making a final call. That is my opinion as well. So I managed to only rant for a little over an hour, so that's good, I guess. I've said everything I really want to say. I actually have said everything I really want to say now. So to my curious scholars, until next time, bye-bye.